everyone, and welcome to the Empowering Women podcast. When this podcast releases, many of us will have back to school on our brains and the move back into whatever a normal routine looks like, if there is such a thing. But today's guest is anything but routine. Cheryl Merchant, she's in a class of her own. She has 40 years of leadership and management experience in manufacturing, which I love because that's where I've spent my whole career. She has held leadership positions with industry giants like GM, Mazda, Ford, and Lear Corporation. And she's led teams in the United States, Mexico, Canada, and throughout Europe and Asia. She spent 19 years as the president and CEO of Hope Global, and she's currently the CEO of Taco, Comfort Solutions. So welcome, Cheryl, to the podcast. We're so thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Shannon. You know, whenever I hear that bio, it's a little daunting. And then I had to add one more year when I hit 61. So 41 years of manufacturing
41 years.
now.
There you go.
Just keeps
40
going.
and counting. More awesomeness ahead, right?
That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, as the folks listening know, they love, I know, to start with a story. That's my favorite place to start. So tell us a little bit more about your personal journey and what brought you to Taco Comfort Solutions.
All right. Well, there's no way to do 41 years in just 15 minutes, by the way.
Yeah.
So this is blips. But let me start with telling you a little bit about Taco first. So we're a 104-year-old third generation family company, which is absolutely amazing. And many times we're holding meetings with 2 and 3 companies around the table of that same kind of multi-generation family. That is exactly what we are about. We are global. With our headquarters here in Cranston, Rhode Island, engineering and manufacturing sites all over the world. We manufacture high efficiency indoor heating, cooling, and plumbing comfort solutions. So we're right here with you and empowering women in industry and pumps. Our expertise, products, and save our customers energy, money, resources, and improving their indoor environmental quality. So that's what we're all about. My journey. I am, as you mentioned, a 41-year-old manufacturing. I usually say manufacturing rat. My daughter shakes her head at me when I do that, but yeah,
that's
on,
where it goes.
Like it. So 35 years of that is in automotive, everything working from the beginning of a shop floor in GM. Many years ago, all the way to the top offices around the world and running companies as I go. So it's been an amazing journey. Absolutely love it. I have dealt with all the phrases when I'm talking to empowering women. I have to tell you, whatever you think you're going through, you're not alone. All right. So when you have bosses tell you everything from "I'm really happy that you think like a man" to "you're really going to need to make your boss succeed in this because you know I can't put a woman in the job." You know, you have more womanly tendencies than I realized, and maybe you just want me to sit here and say ooh, oh, that was an interesting conversation as we went. And then there was one of my favorites that says, "You know, I'm really proud that you've maintained your femininity." At which point I thought, what did you think I was going to do with it? It's not something you put on the shelf. But and actually, you know, I've come to realize that many of us struggling in this man's world, which we definitely are. It is a man's world. I don't care what industry you're talking about, but many women sort of do lose a bit of what makes them so special because we try to compete. So, but I came to Taco because John Hazenwhite Jr. is the absolute opposite of anything I've ever worked with. This man really, he cares about people. And you know what? One of my favorite phrases always says, you know, the Constitution said "we the people for the people." It didn't say "we the men for the men." I don't know what we had to fight everything about, but that's when I say "we the people," he cares about people. It's all people. You can find him sitting on a sidewalk talking to a homeless man just as much as you can find him sitting in a boardroom. And we've been friends for 24 years. So coming to a company that cares about people, working for a gentleman, and I say that very heartfelt, such as John Hazenwhite Jr., has been just kind of the culmination of my career. And now I've been here 5.5 years, and we are between the partnership above, and they say being a CEO is lonely, and it is, but not in this job. Johnny is one of my most trusted advisors. He's a partner. We talk things out all the way through, and running the company together. It's the greatest thing you've ever seen in the world. But I am happy to be with Takeo Comfort Solutions right now.
How does the organization inspires you, or other than what sounds like a phenomenal board member, friend, leader, what inspires you about Takeo?
So our vision is to promote the success of our family of employees, customers, partners, our communities globally, by being
Yep.
the easiest company to do business with
Mm.
and providing innovative and dependable products. And that's, I'm in the same boat. I love to make people successful. I take my entire team. That's what I drive to do. If I can make every single one of them the best they can be and guiding and however that is, then we all win. And that's the kind of culture we're pushing down at all levels. We have
Yep.
tremendous amount of programs to help future leaders. Just building in the culture of, we just launched this huge Takeo management leadership program for some of
Interesting.
our great globally, always globally, for some of our greatest future leaders and or current leaders, and just to teach them attitude and aptitude and what it really means to succeed, and helping drive those. So the kind of culture that cares about people and our communities. Johnny and I, we were just at Hasbro doing one of their cookouts for the children at Hasbro, and that kind of thing, so phenomenal. The kind of work we try to do, Empowerment Factory, when they're working for children and education. And then there's the White Family Foundation. I mean, what they care about, the arts. There's nothing about Takeo that doesn't scream culture and scream about caring.
Mm-hmm. And it matters, to your point, Cheryl. I am a huge proponent of what I call a human-centric leadership style, and what you just described is that, where culture and people come first. And I think we mentioned this on the outset, but you and Takeo have been such a consistent and enthusiastic supporter of empowering women in industry. What do you think makes your company special for women and supporting their journey? So you talked about a management program, but my guess is you have either things that you're doing or ways that you're incorporating that into your culture.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, being part of the Empowering Women, that was key. Women of Energy. Now ASHRAE for women. There's a big group out there. The Women's Summit at Bryant University is just a phenomenal event of aspiring and motivating and teaching. And so all of those kind of things are really key to us, but it's multifaceted. Women is a focus for mine. I'm sorry, I'm gonna just, I'm gonna own it. But that's not where it stops. We are absolutely spreading the kind of culture in what we do for everyone.
Okay, makes sense. Why has Takeo found it important to invest in the relationship with empowering women? And it sounds like women in energy and organizations like that. Why is it important for you and the team?
Well, it's such a perfect partnership. I have a couple of, more than a couple, but Leslie Tato, my executive vice president over business operations, my right hand, left hand. Victoria McCoy, she spoke at a number of these events ahead of my global human resource, really teaching what it means to be a corporate advisor, sponsor, corporate person. Kate Tyler, my global controller. I mean, the list is amazing of some of the women that we have, and giving them a place where they can be inspired and supported and know that it matters. They matter. And that's what empowering women do. Charlie Matthews is one of my favorite people. She is the entrepreneur of all time. And what she has been doing with this organization is just phenomenal.
It really is phenomenal. I would like to kind of give you and Leslie a shout out here. So I was at the conference last year, so I had an opportunity to see your fireside chat, is what I will call it. And you said something to me that's actually stuck, and it's really kind of carried through, which we talked about skill sets and the ability to as you're talking about your career stories, particularly if you've had more of a portfolio career like I have, and maybe you've not stayed in a function or a very specific area, how you leverage the conversation of skill sets across as you're talking about your story, as you're pitching yourself for maybe a project or a new role, be it internally your company or outside of. It's really stuck with me, Cheryl. So it's actually something I've incorporated into my own storytelling. So I think that's why the relationship that you and empowering women's industry have is so very important, because you're leaving those seeds with people like me, whether you realize it or not.
Oh, thank you, Sheena. That is what it's about. I had a woman, I received, I'm not sure what the award was at the Women's Summit at Bryant. And I had a lady come up and tell me, what you said last year has stuck with me and made a difference in my entire life. I had to go back and try to figure out what I'd said, because,
Right.
I'm just one of these talkers. I'm just sitting here talking to you and sharing. So you never know what's going to happen or what's going to come out. But that's what it's about. I mean, just trying to make people the best they can be and inspiring them. So I'm really thrilled that stuck with you.
Yeah, it did stuck with you. You probably don't remember saying it, but it stuck with me. And actually, the person that was attending with me, we've talked about it several times since then. Well, kind of getting back to culture, we've talked a little bit about culture so far. I believe, as I'm actually hiring new talent into my day job, and so culture becomes a more and more bigger conversation in the interview process and then as you're onboarding. And to be honest, I think this is especially true from women for what I'm seeing. And I'm tending to hire women from technical careers. So I'm really seeing it from the women I'm trying to hire in engineering. What do you think makes cultures welcoming for women and other folks that would be considered marginalized?
It's a lot in our current, I'm seeing it far more even in our current world, where we're waking up to things that matter, thinking about the world, thinking about those and that are in need, of reaching out and helping the next one. And so that kind of caring is what we really need. Can you imagine if women were running this country? I don't, well, all right, stop. I won't go down that way. I won't go there. I won't go there. But the fact
I've
of
had that
caring
thought,
about
by the
each other.
way. Go
Oh
ahead.
my goodness. Just a strong woman that really cares, isn't trying to make a big name or be there because she's a woman or anything else. But it I had to tell you a little story. We were through the automotive. I tell you, it's all about it's nothing but men in all of these. And there was this they took one of their top cars, Ford Motor did, and I won't bash anything, or the top vehicles that was selling like 2,000 a day. We couldn't hardly keep up with making them. And they changed the internal fabric to this screen printing Japanese stuff. And it was the biggest failure you've ever seen. I mean, it was like, I wouldn't coat the inside of this in my gym bag. This looks like my grandmother's carpet from 80 some years ago. Went on and on, the critics that came back, and it was awful to produce and everything else. And I asked this head designer, I said, where did you get this? And he goes, well, we were trying to appeal to the women's buyers out there because there's more and more of them. And my question was, did you talk to any women by any chance? Because there's not a woman. And they didn't. Of course they didn't. It was this big room of cigar smoking and whatever. But there is a mixture that women are needed everywhere. They're needed on boards. They're needed in management. They're needed. They bring a whole new perspective. And I say that across all cultures, by the way. I mean, we need diversity. We need to be mixing and learning and bringing everyone to the table and listening to people. So just to have that opportunity, to have women and stronger. I'm hiring women engineers as well. I love it. I love it. And just to see the innovation. I mean, one of my best engineers, she raised her hand. She goes, I'm not an engineer. And I'm like, but you think amazing. So I really like you there, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, you actually have a business mind and an engineering mind. But now I understand why. Okay. But anyway, it was, I just think that the more and more that we start bringing women into the workforce and helping them succeed, getting them to the table, not trying to promote that they're women, but just sharing their mind and their thoughts and all that that they're about is really critical for our future.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring up. I love that story, by the way, with the different fabric. One of the things I'm seeing with employee resource groups in particular. So I'm part of a larger company, and they're migrating those from what they started as, which was still culture building, but a little bit probably just more community and network building. Not that that doesn't still happen, over to what the term is business resource groups. So actually having an impact on the company's processes or products and making them more friendly and better for everyone, not just women, but women's voices at the table. Maybe people with disabilities is another good example at the table, right? So thinking
Exactly.
about design in a different way, and it really improves it for everybody. So I think having those voices, and that's one way of many, I'm sure, to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many differences. My daughter is a staunch LGBTQ plus, if I said that correctly. You just support her for the differences in the world. And I also, but I told my kids, when we were talking about it, because she, screaming about discrimination, because I grew up dirt poor on a farm. I mean, one pair of shoes, and we worked, and I spent my summers picking up rocks and pulling weeds and those kind of things. And you're discriminated against when you go to school and you got dirt under your fingernails and you're very poor and you're not part of the townies, and
Right.
and then I gained weight when because the way I was eating, and as I stopped growing and working in the farm, I gained weight. I wasn't able to I spent all of my education for the schooling, and I couldn't live on campus, so I was different there and not quite included in a lot of things. And then you start to succeed, or you're smart. I looked at my son, who's very nerdy. I'm like, can you remember when they tease you about your sweatshirt and being a nerd and knocking books out of your hands, or if you've gained weight, or you done this, or and now even being successful, I see it a lot. Successful people need to pay for everything. Well, that's what it's. Discrimination is discrimination. People are different, and that's special. I mean, we need to push that, right? Not look down on it somehow. So, and I think women have a tendency to do that more. They have a tendency to be accepting and caring. Maybe it's because we're mothers in some aspects, and we don't, whether our kids are different or not, we love them. And I'm not sure what it is, but that's what makes, women in our future so necessary, because we open our arms to everyone.
Yeah, we do. I think we do. And for me, what I've really worked on, and it sounds like you have as well, is what is our own biases. And I think it takes humility to kind of walk that road and be in the middle of a conversation and go, I just made an assumption about this person.
Judgment.
Yep. And should I have really made that assumption? And
Nope.
I'm still doing it. It's a part of human behavior, but I think catching it is so important.
Completely. I mean, we think doctors have a God complex, or CEOs are arrogant, or, I mean, come on. But I mean, we classify by job, we classify by how much you make, we classify where you live. You could be the biggest struggling, but you have a nice house, and my, kids will make fun, and they're the worst. Kids make fun of each other for the stupidest things, but yeah, just consciously thinking, because we all do it. I mean, we have favorite children, or favorite grandchildren. Grandparents have favorite grandchildren, and or favorite teachers, or whatever it can be. We're quick to judge. There's a couple of songs out there I really, really love. Sunday Morning After. It talks about, that taxi driver could have a PhD, or that clerk could just have lost her mother. You have to stop judging, and it's very,
it's
very
funny.
difficult.
And for me, what I've found is curiosity. So like for your point, I had to take an Uber. Well, I went to a conference and I was taking an Uber back to an airport, and I started talking to the Uber driver, and you just to be honest, you assume that they're sort of in this dead end job. They don't have any aspirations. My bias, right? Struggling. This guy had gotten laid off. He was actually an IT professional, and he was doing this as fill-in work as he was working actively to get a new role. And I was like, wow, if you don't ask the question, like what you assume is usually not true.
Completely. That's exactly
crazy.
on. It's exactly on.
I'm going to switch a little bit. So I did a little research on the company. One of your values at Takeo is ownership and taking responsibility to deliver on your commitments. What does that look like for you? I love that one. So I was really curious. I wanted to dig into your head and see what that looks like for you.
So one of the first things I did at Takeo, and I don't know what I even say this, but I threw away the entire bonus program, the recognition program,
Mm,
and I put it on the company. And I basically said, if the company succeeds, we all succeed. And there's no limit to that. I mean, and again, remember, whenever I say everything I do, Johnny is behind me and supports and all in. But we, now I've built this amazing strategic leadership team, and global. I mean, there's 20 of us. And now I hear that out of some of my young leaders. I want to be on that team, but these are 20 people that come together 3 times a year to work on the strategic initiatives. And it's not about my engineering team. It's our engineering team. It's our quality team. It's our supply chain. It's understanding how we're growing and whether that moving that place over here is best for the company, not just about one or another. I've been in companies that, seriously, and sometimes I head off on tangents, so help me out. But where literally it's a big company and they have multiple branches, but they become so focused that their branch to win that they have shut down another branch because they didn't get payment for corporate. And it's just things that make you shake your head. So ownership is that, it's all of our responsibility. It's some of the oldest things about putting your name on your job, about that person that signs a sheet because they cleaned the bathroom and it looks
right.
amazing. And it is in every level you can possibly have. And one of the things I truly believe in is that every single person is important, whether it's that janitor or whether it's that manager or who it is, because we can't get it done by ourselves, right? It's like a football team. It's everybody. So we need to own that. We are a team. We're all in this boat together, and you can't just say, hey, your end of the boat is leaking. The ownership is, this is our boat and we have to do this, and I read tons of books. I mean, extreme ownership, how US Navy SEALs lead and win.
Oh,
There's
that's
you
interesting.
put your stamp on it, own it. And you know what? And even when you do wrong, I mean, hey, I own that. I made a mistake. This is what I did. This is why I did it. And this is kind of what I learned, right? And that is so powerful for yourself, for others, just to hear, hey, you know what? They take responsibility. That's what it looks like to me. Somebody that stands up and takes responsibility.
Yeah, I love the collective aspect of what you said. So I've spent the majority of my career in larger companies, and you spent your fair time in some of the larger companies, and that happens a lot, right? The silo, I'll take a famous
Completely.
one like engineering versus production, right? To me, that's a famous one in my journey. Well, that was the engineering's fault, or that was manufacturing's fault. And I still catch myself doing it, right? And I have to step back and
Yeah,
say, well, the truth is, for the customer, we're all the same person.
they don't care.
So
And
if
you,
they don't care who failed, they
right?
just care that they didn't get the product or the service that they're looking for, and they did not have the customer experience they were hoping for.
Absolutely. I was running an operation in Mexico and had that exact thing, it's engineering, it's quality. So it's a design problem. No, you did it wrong on the floor. So I literally had these 2 gentlemen, I'm sorry, but 2 gentlemen in my office. And I said, kick off your shoes, switch them. Guess what you are today? As of now, you are immediately the quality and you are immediately the engineering. Now, I would suggest you go have a conversation and figure this problem out. You got to be harsh on that kind of thing sometimes, but seriously, when you're looking at, and I use it all the time, Leslie would laugh at me because one of the first things I did at Takeo was we had a big strategy meeting, and then I gave out shirts, and I'm like, if you want to be on the team, here's our rules. You must sign here. This is your contract. And now you get a shirt, you get to be on the team. But the meaning behind that is one person can't win. It's not like the quarterback's the winner. or the field kicker or whatever.
Right.
I mean, the whole team wins. And that's back to the same thing with ownership, because you have to depend on each other to know your job and do your job and pull it out. So yeah, it's it makes a big difference when you trust and work together like that.
Yeah, it really does. So I'm gonna pivot a little bit more. We're gonna be releasing this podcast on one of my favorite days of the year, which is Women's Equality Day, which is
Mm-hmm.
August 26th. For those who don't know, this day commemorates the 1920 certification of the 19th U.S. Constitutional Amendment granting the women the right to vote. Obviously, women like yourself and I, Cheryl, we've had quite a journey. Not for me, over 100 years old. I'm not quite that old. Working on it, with much progress. I'm curious though. This is my selfish question for the day because I also work in the HVAC industry. So, what progress have you seen in the HVAC and plumbing industry for women?
Wow. So I'm going to do some shout out here because I have met some amazing women in this industry. And not the least of which is Charlie Matthews herself, but Shannon Holderman Brown from Hydro Technologies. This lady started as a secretary and taught herself the products. And then I was running the as head of all of operations, and was just on one of our big events as a recognition, as president award recognition. And Julie Purdue, same thing at NH Yates and Company, the bestseller. And then she tells me, hey, maybe I shouldn't say that, but they,
Okay.
when you're being judged, that they had their company was being careful that on how they presented all the sales sheets, because they didn't want to make the other guys feel bad.
Mm.
Um, and
Well,
Kelly,
so let me catch that. She was trying to make herself smaller. Is that what you're saying, or did
no,
I
not
misunderstand?
her. I mean,
Oh,
they had this big
okay.
board, and she was doing
Oh,
so phenomenal that
oh,
they
I get it
had to
now. Okay.
watch what they were doing,
So
and
they had to watch
recognition,
not to
because
bring too much attention to her, is what you're
attention to
saying.
her, yeah, not make the
Okay.
others feel bad. And it's like, who would do that to a guy? You lowered, you didn't count this part of their sales because it put you too far over the top. Just Ann Kelly, Emerson Swan, this lady's so smart, so bright, running their finances and what they do. It's our biggest partner, Emerson Swan out there. Stephanie Hatley at Hoffman Hydronics. She was on a trip with us, young lady. She has this, we talked about it. She's, not only beautiful with this golden long blonde hair, but incredibly smart. And we were talking about how those things don't jive in a lot of male minds. I'm going to keep right with the word male mind, but Kim Addams, at JM O'Connor, I just talked to her owners the other day, and you know what, I really almost wanted to ask him, have Kim on this meeting, because she runs the place. It's like behind every good man, she's still there. And then I met this amazing gal, Kristen Davis of Bishop Plumbing, on a fishing trip. She was she joined us, but she bought the company from her dad. And she was telling me the story, how she had a very disgruntled customer calling and saying, no, I'm mad, I want to talk to, the owner. And I said, well, I'm the owner, I'm here. And she goes, but then I want to talk to your husband. Well, my husband is in the accounting department, but I'm happy to let you talk to him. He's probably not going to be able to solve your problem. Just that kind of mentality is still out there, but there are amazing women all through this industry. And I'm going to say, I mean, when I look at a Jimmy Seamus or a Bart Taroni, that they promote their girls. They're calling me and saying, hey, can you come in and talk to our team, because we've got some of the most amazing young women that are out here. And so I'm seeing it in the industry. I really am, Shannon. I'm seeing it where there's barriers being broken. I sat on a panel. It was Women of Energy, and we were in Hershey, I think. But this African-American lady she was running a plumbing company in New York
Oh
City,
wow,
and
good
had
for her.
started as a plumber and had to fight that whole mentality of all these good
Wow.
old boys, right? But she did it by proving I can do the job. I'm not scared of grease, and I can run a wrench seriously. And we talked a lot about how you got to prove yourself, man. You don't try to, being a woman might get you 5 minutes of courtesy, no swearing, but then all bets are off. You gotta be able to ready to do the work and do the grunt,
Yep.
and then just shove yourself through. And there are women that are doing that in this industry, and it's amazing. It really,
Yeah, I think
really is
that's great
amazing.
advice, though. Women and men, but women in particular, is earn credibility, and that may look like
Yeah,
different things in different roles, but credibility is important.
it is. You know what? I tell everybody, they'll say something, and okay, I have no problem proving myself. You've got 6 months to realize what I can do.
Yeah, I love
And
the
then,
story. I didn't catch the name, but the lady that had longer blonde hair, more younger, very
yeah,
attractive.
Stephanie, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying I was in that boat, but Cheryl, growing up, I was a cheerleader, but I was smart. So I was in, the advanced placement classes, but I was cheerleader, and everybody kind of go, like, those things
Mm-hmm.
don't belong in the
Don't
same
belong
world.
together. Yeah.
And then when I went to engineering school, people were just like, I even had a gentleman ask me one evening, do you have an education degree? Not there's anything wrong with that. But I'm like, no, you're just making an assumption
Right,
that a
right.
woman can't be pursuing an engineering degree.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's like,
my
oh, go
I
ahead.
totally agree. My favorite phrase when they look at the little 5-foot blonde is like, I'm sorry, but it comes from a box. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ignore.
I have to admit, these days there's a little bit of box in
I'm,
there too, but yeah.
seriously, the gray is very heavy in here.
Yeah, I'm hearing, well, you've earned it. 41 years,
Thank
you've
you.
earned it. Well, we touched on this a little bit, but I really want to dig on this one a little bit. What barriers do you still see? And on the positive side, like, what are you seeing that folks can do to break those barriers?
Oh, you know, uh, mentality is the hardest thing in the world to change. It really is. When you talk about the journey of women, and I mentioned that, the Constitution, we the people for the people. Why did we, like we weren't in that to be able to vote? And then just to think about it, I mean, it was in my lifetime that women were allowed to have their own bank account.
Oh,
And
yeah.
even then, I was raised by women on in this little farm that, the men ate first. I mean, they came in from the fields, the women had their job, but so it was a different, there's just years and years of this ingrained, and I'll tell you, even in my last marriage, and trust me, that one didn't last very long either, but we had a counselor tell us, well, maybe if you divided responsibilities for you to do the housework and for him to do the yard work, then, there wouldn't be so much, like, this is your answer. No, this is your answer. And literally when I'm folding clothes and he was there with me, and our son says, "What are you doing, Dad?" And he said, "I'm helping your mother." No, he's not. He's helping the family because this is our job. It's in everything you hear, the
Yeah.
mental barriers. It's so ingrained. It's just so ingrained. I mean, and then but it's ingrained the other way. You think it's starting
Yeah.
to change a little bit, but have a guy that doesn't want to work out and be tough, but wants to be in the kitchen. Whoa, you what? So
Yep.
understand, ladies, that kind of discrimination goes both ways a lot of times, and I mean, even here, my son, why do I have to open the door? Why am I asked to carry the big box? So,
Fair.
you know, right? We just, it's something that's so ingrained in us, and we got to shake it. We got to shake it.
It's
Maybe
funny
instead
that
of
you say
asking,
that. Yeah. There's a lady, an African American lady, that wrote the book called Drop the Ball. And what she talks
mm,
about is women are often the CEO of their own house, right? And we often treat men the same way that men have treated us in the workplace. When they say, "Oh, I want to take over this at home," we look at them like, "Are you really capable of doing that?"
yeah,
I don't think you have any credibility in that department, right? And so we're unfortunately, to your point about we can be our own worst enemy, because we're not saying, okay, you know what, here, you manage this family schedule for the week, right?
yeah, yeah,
Or to your
completely.
point, right? Or you do the laundry this week, or whatever it may be.
I'm going to go mow the lawn. I mean, my
Yeah.
sister will be the first one. She's got a couple very strapping men in her family, one of her son, and she'll be the one out there mowing, and pushing and doing everything. Again,
Oh,
she
yeah.
was the one next to me on the farm, and it was very interesting. I'll tell you, my dad taught me this. My dad and my mom, but if you think about it, when you're on a farming field, there's rows and rows of crops, right? And we would be all standing at the end during the summer. And I remember this probably back, I was maybe 10, and my sister would have been 8. And then my mom and my dad were there, and we would be standing at the end, and he'd take 6 rows. We're gonna pull weeds, and mom would get 4, and both my sister and I would get 2. And he'd look back and forth, and he said, "Okay, are we all ready? Let's go." And we take off walking. And, you know, if you got a little behind, he'd jump over in your lane and pull and say, "Come on, you got to keep up. Let's go." Now we laughed, and we would sing, we would laugh, we'd tell jokes, we'd do everything, but we worked together as a team. My mom, you know, if dad was in the shop, you know, she was pulling us out there. Let's go get this done. You know, she was the head of helping with the cattle. And, you know, every time dad left for fishing, we do a new electrical project or replumb the kitchen, you know. So I'm so grateful for this lady that taught me that there's nothing you can't do. And so I encourage all of us to just accept those differences. You know, when you see a guy knitting, what's your first thought?
Yeah, you're like, why are you knitting? But then to your point, that's bias, right? It's up here.
Complete bias. So if we could just, that mentality is the hardest thing to change. And you know what, I think you said it earlier, Shannon, when you look at yourself, that's where to start. When you talk about how can we break them down, start with yourself. Start with asking yourself, or Leslie tells me this, you know, when somebody says something, just go, ouch. That's kind of hurtful. Did you mean to be hurtful? And, you know, maybe just stop. Don't get angry and don't attack, but just like, whoa, wait a minute. Do you know how that kind of comes across? That was really bad. You might want to change that wording. So if we're going to change things, we got to do it in a manner that's not overly aggressive. And my daughter just took me to this concert, Hosier, and I'll tell you, it was the greatest thing I've ever been to. I mean, but this gentleman got up there and he said, you know, we just had all those riots about what's happening in our world, and he said, you know, you have to remember that this world was built on protest. Okay, I mean, women vote today because of protest, but look how they did it. It wasn't bombing cars and blowing things up. And we were in, where were we at just recently? I'm trying to think. We were in some kind of market. We were in England, in London, and they just had the final on the soccer, and there was a girl behind the counter. We were buying these plants, and she said she was really listening to some of the screaming and shouting, and she said, "Man, just between us, you should get off the streets by 5 o'clock, because whether they win or lose, this place goes crazy." And how awful to be. You know, come on, we need to be, whatever our emotions are, whether we're angry or happy or whatever, our emotions, we need to keep in control. And that's kind of how I see expressing and being out there. We need to stand up for ourselves, but we need to do it right.
Yeah. Well, what makes you hopeful about the future? Because we talked, I want to end on a positive note on that piece. What makes you hopeful about the industry you're in?
I will tell you, first of all, what makes me hopeful is even my own daughter. I mean, despite my age, I have a 15-year-old daughter that I am unbelievably proud of. She's in Scouts, not Girl Scouts, in Scouts, because she loves the camping. She loves the hiking and everything.
I like it.
And Samantha's, she's big, she's track. She's also in community service. She's also in community culture club. She's also, I mean, but she carries for, she would laugh at me, but she's in solid honors classes, 9th grade. But I hear her talk and I see what she sees, and we share everything. She's like my best friend. And that's what gives you hope when you listen to her and her friends, because she graduated 12th in her class, or graduated came out of her 9th grade and number 12. And all her friends were in that same group. Man, they I've listened to their study classes. They have a whole new way, man. They have 10 minutes of quiet time or whatever they do, and they'll let everybody go back and forth. And there's guys and girls on there, and it's so funny. There's one of her friends is the first guy to say, hey, 10 minutes is up. Come on, guys, I want to talk. You know, skip the study. We're moving on. But you know what? I make it a point. I make a point of having at least 5 mentees at all times if I can.
Oh, wow. That is a great commitment, Cheryl. And I know that's got to be hard to do with your schedule.
It is, especially if you really mean it. if you're really going to spend
Yep.
time with them, if you're really going to be there. But I have some amazing, I had a young woman 25 years ago, the head of Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce came to me and said this, his part-time personal assistant was just amazing. And you got to take this girl on. She's now, she would laugh at me, but she's now, I don't know. I've went through so many jobs with her and she'd call me from the parking lot. This just happened. What do I say? Go back, take a deep breath. This is what we need to, but I think that, some of those young women, and I even had an African-American, he was from Africa. He was in a family of 5 guys and he was going to be sent in to run this piece. And he was talking to me about how running a company with people that don't respect you kind of thing. Right. And so I see it in all of these young leaders, and I'm very hopeful. I sat on the board with Bryant University for 9 years and saw some of I saw some of our future. And I know a lot of us want to think about, oh, this younger generation, but again, what are we doing? Generalizing. And it's not fair.
And to be honest, if I look back on the 21 or 22-year-old me, I kind of shake my head. So I think part of that just comes with experience and age, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, it's hard to believe, Cheryl, but we're coming to the end. I'm going to end with my final favorite question, which is, what is one final piece of advice or a quote that you would love to share with our listeners?
Well, I've given you a few of them already, I'm sure, but often when I'm speaking to any kind of group, I will ask, how do you want to be remembered? And I'm going to be bad if I try to give you the name of who said this, but think about how you want to be remembered, and now go live your life and go be how you want to be. And I just truly love helping people be the best they can be and successful and happy. And I tell them, strive to be the leader that you always wanted. Strive to be that boss, that supervisor that cared, that listened, that got you involved, that gave you a chance. That's what we need to be doing. And then I would, as far as advice, to the women who blazed the trail before us, you're going to forever have our gratitude. To the women who are currently on the trail, me included, let us all stay focused and keep up the great work. And for the women to follow, reach out your hand. That's my advice.
I'd add one little piece of one in the middle for the women on the journey. Reach back your hand, right?
That's it.
Just like
That's
you're
what
doing
I'm saying.
today. Yep. Yeah. Well, Cheryl, it has been so much fun. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure for me to have this time with you. And thank you for your support of the podcast, as well as for the entire Empowering Women in Industry organization. It's an honor to spend the time with you. And thank you for blazing the trail for women.
No, Shannon, thank you so very much for the honor to invite me here. I hope somebody walks away with that tidbit that you mentioned before, because that's pretty much all you can do is leave tidbits. But what a pleasure to be able to reach out to so many people and just say you're not alone and don't give up, and be that one you always wanted to be. So thank you so very much. This was a great joy to have spent a little time with you. And I look forward to the next time. I think are you going to be in New Orleans?
I will. I will see you in October in New Orleans. I'm excited.
All right. I will be there too.
Thank you, Cheryl.